Anytime you're ready, pal.
Hey, all you dudes and dudettes, welcome back to your favorite podcast, That Would Be Rad, a podcast that majors in 80s and 90s nostalgia, comic culture, all things paranormal, and minors in retro video games, tabletop RPGs, pre-internet mysteries, and raising our kids to be half as cool as we were back in the 80s. I'm your host, Tyler Bentz, and this is your other host,
Woody Brown.
What's up, dude?
Oh, man, dude. It's, boy, we're back in the swing of things, and I'm liking it, you know?
Yeah. Although I feel like for this episode, should we, go through the intro several more times?
Yeah.
Just to really drive it home, you know?
Bear with me here, okay? I want you to do something, man. I want you to close your eyes, listener. Well, hold on a minute now.
If you're driving.
If you're driving, how about this? No, do me a favor. You, Tyler, and listener.
Okay.
I want you to turn back the clock with me here. We're going to go back to 1993. I mean, such a great year. It was a pivotal time in my life. I'm sure it was in yours.
Yeah.
It was just amazing, dude. When I think back to 1993, I think of Doc Martens. I think about riding around in my older friend's car, listening to songs on our local alternative radio station called 99X.
Yes.
That, by the way, doesn't exist anymore. Tragic.
No.
Okay.
Or 103.7 The Bulldog. Remember that one?
Kind of, but I mean, I was a hardcore 99X listener, man.
Well, I was too, but before that was The Bulldog, and it was like a lot more indie. It was from Athens, so it had like a lot more violent films.
Well, you could get it where you lived, but
that's right.
Where I lived in Gwinnett County, in high school or whatever, it would kind of come in and out, and so I just didn't have the patience for that.
Yeah,
but I mean, like you would turn on the dude. I mean, just if you think about that time, songs on the radio were like Cannonball by the Breeders, Daughter by Pearl Jam, Round Here by Counting Crows,
still a favorite,
Today by Smashing Pumpkins, and of course, Heart Shaped Box by Nirvana. I mean, if you go through the list of albums that came out in 93, it's going to blow your mind.
Yeah.
It was also an incredible year for movies. I mean, seriously, dude, I'm pretty sure, because when I looked at this, I'm almost positive that every movie that came out in 93
was good.
I don't know that I would go there, but I've seen either in the theater or renting them from Blockbuster. Let me just name a few of them. Tombstone. Ever heard of it?
The best Western movie ever made.
My gosh, dude. Cliffhanger. Jurassic Park. People.
There we go.
RoboCop 3. Well, it's still, come on. It's RoboCop.
I did like that he could fly. That was like...
I don't even remember.
As a kid, that was
you
amazing.
saying that, zero memory of that. That means I'm popping it in the old VCR as soon as we're done today.
Well, what's funny is I don't even remember him flying in the movie. I just remember the ad in comics that showed him with like a jetpack on.
Do you remember like the thing that he would do where he like...
The bird finger spike?
Yes, dude.
Yeah.
I knew
you were going to talk about that.
That's amazing. I loved how his like gun would like go into his leg. So cool.
Oh, yeah.
A Bronx Tale, one of my favorite movies. Coneheads, Son-in-Law, Dazed and Confused.
Yeah.
Demolition Man. If you're into horror, you'll remember Leprechaun.
Wait, did Candyman come out? No,
that's later. How about Hard Target? You know that movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme sporting what I would consider an incredible mullet.
Oh, yeah.
Let's not forget about the critically acclaimed American Ninja 5. Now, despite all those hits and tons more, I think it's the perfect time of year to talk about one of our all-time favorite movies that literally I can and will watch over and over and over again, and that is Groundhog Day. Obviously, when this comes out, it's not going to still be Groundhog Day, but still, what an incredible movie. Now, before we dive...
Real quick, though.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you missed Tyler as much as I did, you probably are, also missed.
I'm so excited.
If you go back and listen to last week's episode, how many times did I interrupt him when he was telling the story of Spring Hill Jack? The answer you're looking for is zero. I'm still getting interrupted.
I'm just saying, before we move on, we did look this morning because my daughter, Amelia, was asking, and he did see a shadow. So we do have more cold weather.
Is that cold weather or
Is that right? God, I get this wrong every single time.
Oh man,
I think he did see a shadow.
Yep, you're right, man. Punxsutawney Phil saw a shadow. So 6 more weeks of winter.
Yep. Anyway,
before it's funny that you brought that up. So, you interrupted me. Forgiven. Before we get into the movie, I kind of want to talk a little bit about like the history of Groundhog Day, if that's not going to be too boring.
I know nothing
I didn't really
about
know.
it.
Yeah, dude, me neither, man. I mean, let me tell you what they don't talk about in 1980s Texas, whether or not there's a groundhog that sees a shadow. Because whenever I was there wasn't really any winter the entire time I lived there. But anyway, so we're going to, believe it or not, get back into the old 1800s, man. On February 2nd, 1887, Groundhog Day was celebrated for the first time in Gobbler's Knob, Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania.
And that was 1 year before Jack the Ripper showed up.
Man. And Gobbler's Knob, interesting interesting place. But anyway, according to the tradition, if the groundhog comes out of its hole...
Maybe we want to take that again. The groundhog.
According to tradition, if a groundhog comes out of its hole on this day and sees its shadow, it gets scared and runs back into its burrow, predicting that 6 more weeks of winter are ahead. But no shadow means early spring. Dude, don't even get me started. What a weird...
But yeah, where does that even come from?
So basically, Groundhog Day as a whole has its roots in this ancient Christian tradition of Candlemas. And that's when clergy would bless and distribute candles needed for winter. The candles would represent how long and cold the winter would be. And Germans expanded on this concept by selecting an animal, at that time, a hedgehog, as a means of predicting the weather. Then, kind of like a lot of those old ancient traditions, and then potentially cryptids, kind of came with the settlers. And so the German settlers in Pennsylvania kind of continued that tradition. It kind of morphed or transitioned from a hedgehog to the groundhogs because, they were plentiful in Pennsylvania. So anyways, that's kind of like where it started. And I got to say, man, this movie, like I said earlier, it's one that like I can watch over and over and over again, mainly because I think the same would be true for almost any Bill Murray movie.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, agree. God, dude, he's so freaking hilarious. Now, here's something that I, at the time, didn't know about this movie, but it was directed by Harold Ramis.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
He also, co-wrote the screenplay with this guy named Danny Rubin. I looked up Danny Rubin to see if he had, written anything else because I thought the writing was really good. Yeah. And I think Harold Ramis and Bill Murray kind of working together created some of the brilliance of it, really. But Danny Rubin didn't really... so he wrote Groundhog Day, movie that came out that same year, Hear No Evil.
Oh, yeah.
And just a couple other, things here and there, man. Not really a lot. He apparently was an actor in Freaky Friday that came out in 2003. He just plays this, bass player.
That's weird.
Yeah. So, other than that, man, just little here's and there. So I think maybe, Ramis kind of, I don't know, took the helm there. But
by the way, I'm a little embarrassed because I totally thought this was still technically in the 80s for some reason.
Oh, what, the movie?
Yeah.
It kind of has that feel, dude, but it's got the, I don't know. It does seem like an early 90s movie as you watch it. And if you've never watched this movie, folks.
Oh, it's so good.
Man, you got to see it. It's just perfect. There's Bill Murray, Andie MacDowell. What's his name, dude?
Yeah, who's the dude that's on
the camera guy, Chris Elliott.
Yeah,
who you might know him from SNL in the 90s, but also he was in that movie Cabin Boy, and he plays Dom in There's Something About Mary.
Yeah.
He's just one of those dudes that he's hilarious no matter what he does, man. He's kind of awkward. And I didn't know this, but he has a daughter that I believe is also either she was on SNL. I'm going to send you a picture of his daughter, man. When
she sounds hot.
Before. She was in SNL, but also she's in, a ton of different stuff.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know her. Yeah, to me, the funniest role is, what was like the scary movie, like parody? What was it called?
Oh my gosh, dude. Yeah, Scary Movie.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Where he has like the little weird
Dude.
like hand.
Yes, man.
Put it in a strong hand.
I guess he's like the butler or something in Scary Movie too. And he's got that like kind of weird hand. And he's like, oh, I'll take the luggage for you. And the guy's like, like that kind of humor, you know, I don't know, man. For the time period, it's just hilarious, man. He's like mixing the mashed potatoes with his hand.
That's the funniest part.
And like licking his fingers and be like, oh, it's so good. Oh, man, so hilarious.
Yeah, they're so hungry, and like he keeps sticking his like weird little hand into the food.
So delicious.
Well, thank you, my child. I made them by hand. Okay, here we go. I think the taters are just about done. I'm just gonna give them one quick whisk.
So gross,
here.
man.
Yeah.
Now, I got to say, Andie MacDowell, man. I
Huge
had
crush on her.
Such a crush, man. And she has this like really interesting accent, you know, in the movie.
I think she's from Georgia,
isn't
isn't
she? Where
she?
she's from, man. I hope so.
I think she is.
Well, she's from South Carolina.
Oh,
And it makes
close enough.
perfect sense because, like, I think as a youngster, I didn't really notice the accent, but the most recent time, you know, watching the movie again, man, she's just, boy, I just had such a massive crush on her, man.
Especially for us, because we don't really have any sort of accent, especially Southern sounding accent. So it's
Wow,
always
boy, you
really-
just sound Southern when you said that, though.
no, I loved her. She kind of has like a classy. She just seems really like sweet.
Yes.
Like she has
Super
that
innocent. I mean, it's perfect casting for her role in the movie.
But it seems like maybe she's the greatest actress in the world, and she's not. But she has that thing where it's like, oh, I would bet $1 million that she's exactly this sweet in real life.
Can I just say something? Andie, if you're listening now, I apologize for Tyler's immediate dismissiveness on whether or not you're the greatest actress in the world. I think you're very talented. So
I also said she
just
was
wanted to,
classy.
you know, put that out there. You are very classy, and still gorgeous. So if you've never seen this movie, which I'm sure most of you have, if you're listening to our show, the sort of like broad story is that Bill Murray plays this guy who's a weatherman, and in just classic Bill Murray character, he's just kind of like a curmudgeon.
Yeah.
He's just not very excited about just his life and having to go and, you know, to this Groundhog Day
Small
festival
town.
and it's in Puxatawny.
Yeah.
That's where they go, right? And so he's got to cover it, and he just hates it, right? He just feels like, you can tell he's one of those guys that feels like he should be further along than he is, you know? And then he lives this day at the very beginning of the movie, on Groundhog Day, actually. And, you know, he's just, again, negative, kind of hard to work with. Chris Elliott plays the camera guy or whatever, and Andie MacDowell kind of plays the producer. And he's just difficult to get along with. And the day ends, and he can't wait to get out of there, right? And so, like, at the end of the day, they're trying to leave, but they're, like, snowed in.
Right.
And so they have to go back to this hotel.
It's like
this
a bed
little
and breakfast.
Bed and breakfast, yeah, that he's staying in. They have to go back, and he's just pissed off about that too. So he's just miserable. And then the next day, he just notices like these odd coincidences, like, oh, the radio's playing the same song when he wakes up at 6 a.m. And then
That Sonny and
the
Cher
announcers,
song.
and like the Sonny and Cher song, and then like one of the comments that he makes is like, oh, playing the old yesterday's tape again, huh, boys? Kind of embarrassing. And then as he steps out of his room, like the people are basically saying the same, he notices that the same things are happening. And it's sort of like, that's the beginning of this like sort of time loop that he gets trapped in.
Yeah.
Which is sort of like the main sort of theme of this movie. And as it goes along, you know, he basically learns to enjoy life. He falls in love and yada, yada, yada. And, you know, there are so many funny parts to the movie, but like one of them that always I loved and still stands out to me is
The puddle.
God, dude, when he runs into like, what's the guy's name? Ned?
Yeah.
Ryerson or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So he runs into this guy, and of course, his character is like annoying.
And he's like a real estate or insurance.
Wait for it. Of course, he's a freaking insurance salesman.
Yeah.
Right?
Phil? Hey, Phil? Phil Connors? Phil Connors, I thought that was you.
Hi, how you doing? Thanks for watching.
Hey. Now, don't you tell me you don't remember me, because I sure as heck fire remember you.
Not a chance.
Ned Ryerson! Ned Ryerson, I did the whistling belly button trick at the high school talent show. Bing! Ned Ryerson got the shingles real bad senior year, almost didn't graduate. Bing! Again! Ned Ryerson, I dated your sister Mary Pat a couple times till you told me not to anymore. Well?
Ned Ryerson?
Bing!
Bing! So did you turn pro with that belly button thing, Ned, or
No,
what?
Phil, I sell insurance.
What a shock.
Do you have life insurance? Because if you do, you could always use a little more. Am I right or am I right or am I right? Right.
Ned, I would love to stand here and talk with you, but I'm not going to. See you.
Hey, that's all right. I'll walk with you.
And then, like, that's even Bill Murray's reaction. He's like, yeah, I sell insurance. And he's like, of course you do. Yeah. And then I'm like, hey, man, slow your roll, man, okay? Mm-hmm. But, like, so the first time he sees him, though, and we've all been in that situation, man. That's why it's, like, so hilarious. You can relate immediately. And you know, Bill Murray's, like, line every single time somebody recognizes him, he's like, thanks for watching, you know? Which is also hilarious. Yeah. Got the shingles real bad senior year. Almost didn't graduate. Bing. It's just his facial expressions, Bill Murray's facial expressions are just amazing. But like we've all been in that situation where somebody unfortunately like recognizes you. You don't really recognize them and you're trying to play it off, you know? Yeah. I don't know. I like those other two would be hard to forget. But then, like, the third one, it's like, I dated your sister. And he's like, still nothing.
So funny. Yeah, he has this, he's such a, you know, sort of asshole curmudgeon. But, like, man, he's so charismatic that Bill Murray, that, like, he just, it's, like, hard to dislike him almost.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like he plays his character a lot. You know,
right. It's kind of like Ghostbusters.
He's a little bit more charming in Ghostbusters.
Yeah, right.
Like less of an a-hole. Mm-hmm. But this kind of thing where it's just kind of like he's a little bit above everything, you know?
Yeah.
But he does it in a way that, is just so like funny and in some ways like kind of relatable times. But you know, another kind of cool fact is like one of his brothers, Brian Doyle Murray. It plays like, I think he plays like the mayor or whoever's like holding the
wait, that's his
Groundhog
brother
or whatever. Dude, this guy is in so many.
The guy with the mustache?
I don't know if he has a mustache.
Hold on a second. Yeah, this is the guy I'm thinking of. Yeah, the guy with the mustache.
Yeah, dude, he plays in like, he's in a lot of stuff. He's in Wayne's World. He's in Caddyshack.
I love that guy.
Yeah. He is in a lot of the same movies that Bill Murray is in. There's another brother. There's a couple brothers that Bill Murray has that kind of show up from time to time in those movies. That's a fun rabbit hole to go down. It's pretty cool. But, you know, one of the things that really kind of, you know, always used to draw me to this movie is the concept of reliving a day over and over, you know, and like, what would you do? You know, and so in this movie, you get to see Bill Murray do a lot of it. And then ultimately, like, and this is part of the reason why, like, I haven't shown my kids this movie yet. It's just like, he gets tired of it. And then he just like, tries to end himself in various different ways. You know?
I do like the, you know, not to jump the gun here, but I do love Jesus, there's that COVID brain again. I love the progression of like, you know, he goes from just like being annoyed to just being, you know, hating it to just trying to kill himself, and then he kind of goes into this other sort of area of like self-improvement, using all the time you have to be a better person, and it's really interesting. And honestly, I think the main takeaway with this is just how I don't know, kind of how daring maybe the script was. I mean, like, I don't know that you could just take this to a studio nowadays and be like, here's the plot. Yeah. He's just going to wake up in the same town every single day, over and over and over.
Although
I don't know that it would ever get made now.
Although they kind of did, though. You know, like, what was that movie with Andie?
Well, yeah, but, like, I mean, there's been several movies that kind of rip it off, but I don't think that would be possible without Groundhog Day coming first.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it certainly paved the way. Palm Springs is the movie I'm thinking of, which I loved. Yeah, with Andy Samberg and
I don't know.
what's the girl's name? You've not seen it? Kristen Miloidi?
You just made that name up.
I may have mispronounced her last name, but
Springs.
come on, dude, you've seen this movie. I'm sure. I think we've talked about this.
Oh yeah. I have seen. Yeah, it's
amazing, dude.
Yeah, this is one of the ones that's exactly.
It's almost like a direct. I mean, not direct ripoff, but in a way, it almost kind of really it is. You know, in a way.
Isn't there like a a little bit of? Don't they talk about like physics and like string theory a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that movie. That was a good movie.
Yeah, it was good. But like, yeah, no, I think it's kind of a brilliant concept. I mean, just think about creating that idea. Like, hey, man, we've got this idea for a movie. Mm-hmm. There's this, small town weatherman who is, mid-40s, doesn't really enjoy his life or job. He's single. He's kind of an ass. Mm-hmm. He goes to cover this Groundhog Day celebration, and then he just unfortunately has to relive this day over and over and over and over again until he it's almost like until he becomes enlightened in a way.
Yeah, it is a very sort of dharmic kind of concept of like, oh, well, you're not ready yet to ascend, so you have to just continue this, wheel of time, if you will.
And I'm always like a big fan of like, he has like the quote unquote cheat codes here. He can kind of like figure things out, and it shows it like initially. And I think the same thing kind of happens in Palm Springs, that movie that we just talked about. Like he figures out all these details about Andie MacDowell's character, that he can kind of use to his selfish benefit to kind of have her fall for him, And there's like one day where it like really like he doesn't know everything yet, but they just had this incredible day together, and then he kind of like ruins it because he knows that the day is going to end and he doesn't want it to. And so she's like, well, I got to go. And he's like, he kind of comes off as a creep because he keeps on like trying to keep her there. And she's like, no, I mean, this is weird. And then he's just like, well, I mean, I'm in love with you. And she's like, you don't even hardly know me. You know? And he's like, yeah, I do. So like,
it's such a tragic kind of.
Oh, dude, it's super tragic. Yeah. But like following that, there are some really funny sequences, like when he's trying to like do it exactly the same way. Like he falls in the snow and he's like, ha ha ha, like, you rascal, and like is having this snowball fight with these kids and stuff. Yeah. I just always thought that was like pretty funny. And kind of like, I mean, not to get too deep with it. I mean, it's kind of like a really interesting sort of like idea and concept in that like
simulation theory.
Well, no. More of like, even if you like live a certain day perfectly, right, in your mind, right? You have this memory that is just flawless. It's perfect. Everything lined up. It's just amazing. I think sometimes, especially like people like you and I, that like sort of romanticize these memories and ideas. If you went back and lived them, it might not be as perfect, or if you try to recreate it, it may not turn out in the way that you wanted to, And so it's more like live in the moment and continuously, like you said, better yourself and like really enrich those relationships with people around you. I mean, we just turned this podcast into like a motivation. Yeah, motivational. So forget about Tony Robbins for a minute and just tune in here, guys. You go from talking about a 90s movie to like real deep stuff. Anyways, it's just an incredible movie, dude.
I love it. I think it's really cool. This kind of veers a little bit away from the movie, but I do wonder if, so you were talking, it's in Pennsylvania. You were talking about, bringing some of those like originally the early like ancient Christian traditions over. I do wonder, so there's a lot of that was brought over with like the Pennsylvania Dutch. And what's interesting is, and we'll get into this later on a show, is this thing called powwow, which is sort of this in the sort of Appalachian areas, like where I'm from, like Cleveland, Georgia, we called it like conjuring. It's also called like conjure magic, or it's very sort of Christian based, but like this sort of magic thing. But there's all these like traditions, and a lot of it comes from this book called Long Lost Friend. But I wonder if some of this tradition like came out of that. You know, it reminds you of like the Farmer's Almanac and a lot of that sort of like what they would call granny magic, or it's very sort of nature based, like watching the signs and the leaves and you know, that kind of thing. So I wonder if a little bit of that is rooted in that sort of.
Oh, dude, I'm sure it is. You know, I think there's a lot of our like sort of annual and even daily traditions that, man, I mean, if we had the time to just kind of dive back and kind of really research the origins of them all, you know, we kind of did that last season when we did our Friday the 13th episode. That was really fun
I was thinking that too.
to kind of dive into where some of these things come from and how like it also differs. You know, like my kids and I, and well, my family were driving back from my brother-in-law's house the other day, and there's this black cat, and you know, growing up, a lot of people were like, "Ugh, a black cat." You know, you got to go another way, or you got to like make an X, or you have to, you know, whatever. And then you learn about that, and then you also learn that, like, but in Italy, it's good luck. So it can't be both, right? So it's like, I don't know, man. I kind of made a switch because I used to be, and I think I said it in that episode, I'm not superstitious.
Just a little
I'm a little stitious.
It's weird. It's weird that you say that because we literally had this exact moment the other day with my family in the car. A black cat crossed, and I immediately reached up and made an X on the windshield. And Courtney my wife was like, "What are you doing? What is this?" So, yeah.
Well, I mean, and like, as silly as it sounds, it's like I kind of choose to, I don't know, to make my own luck, man. Like, I don't know, like my, you know, everything that I got, I earned it myself. You know, I fought hard in the trenches, in the depths. Guys. You know, back in the old neighborhood, there wasn't a lot of room for messing around. You couldn't be a weakling. You had to be strong. And if you weren't strong, you had to get strong. Push back. You understand?
Yeah, I'm still kind of amazed, though, that this movie was made.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you had kind of like, I mean, this is, 93. Harold Ramis at this point he was writing, well, God, let us not forget that, he
Ghostbusters.
Also, yeah, like he not just Ghostbusters, dude. I mean, you trace it back, dude. He was writing like back in like Meatballs and Caddyshack, Stripes, Ghostbusters.
He did all those?
Back to School.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Groundhog Day, of course. But I mean, so like he had some hits under his belt that he could pitch to the studio.
Yeah, that's true.
Like
I just mean as far as like, I think a lot of the, you know, it's sort of the Wes Anderson thing. It's like, you know, keeping your same sort of group of actors, which, I mean, by the way, Bill Murray is kind of a Wes Anderson guy.
Club for sure.
Yeah. But, you know, I can see Ramis, you know, knowing that like, well, if the rest of the cast is terrible, we have Bill Murray.
This guy will save it, yeah.
Yeah, which, by the way, I have to say, I think the supporting cast, like you said, Bill Murray's brother and like the funny like townsfolk and Andie MacDowell, I mean, they're fantastic.
Yeah,
like there's not like a, you know, even in like some of the best movies ever, there'll still be sort of this terrible supporting like bit actor that does something that you're like, okay, why did we have to have the guy kind of, and it sort of like takes you out of the movie for a little bit.
Yeah.
But this movie is just, man, they're flawless. Like, what was the lady? I'm totally gonna mess this up.
You mean like the lady that runs the B&B?
Maybe. Does she have like red hair? Or am I thinking of another lady? I can't.
Yeah, Angela Patton is the name of the actress. She's awesome, man.
Yeah, she's amazing. No, I'm thinking of another.
Hold on, you might be thinking of this lady who.
I don't think she is the B&B. She's not the B&B lady.
Right.
Nope. Not her either.
Okay.
Oh, but she she is in there because he like, doesn't he?
She's the one that first thing he does, like when he figures out, I mean, I think the first time he figures out, okay, I keep on reliving this day, he just goes up to this random, you know, attractive girl
and
says, hey, where'd you go to high school? And she's like, what? And she tells him, and he's like, now who did you, wait, hold on, who did you have for English class? And she's like, I don't know, Miss Smith. And he's like, okay. And he just leaves. And then the next day he's like, Nancy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I sat right next to you in English class. And then he just like, he even I think proposes to her. Dude, another one of my favorite sort of like things that he does. He goes and tells this girl that they're going to a costume party. And then he's dressed up like Clint Eastwood in like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly with like the poncho and everything.
Yeah.
And then the cab just like drops him off at the theater. And she's like, I thought we were going to a costume party. And he's like,
Party.
It's like I said, I love this film. I've seen it over 100 times.
Phil?
Told you. Call me Bronco.
Sorry, Bronco.
Hi, Nancy. My old fiancé. Doesn't remember me.
hey, Nancy. And then the lady's like, huh? Doesn't know him because
Yeah.
she hasn't met him in that timeline.
That's amazing.
So good, man.
But yeah, there are some like really touching sort of moments at the end too. That
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
There's something out there waiting for us. And it ain't no dead.
America's future can be determined by our dreams and our visions.
It was very intense, bright light.
For over 200 years, there have been reports of giant man-like creatures.
From another dimension, another world, I don't know.
The most intriguing mystery on the North American continent.
Hey, this is Bryce Johnson from the Bigfoot Collectors Club, and you're listening to Tyler and Woody on That Would Be Rad, because that is rad.
But yeah, there are some like really touching sort of moments at the end too that, you know, again, it's that sort of dharmic wheel, that sort of karma kind of thing where, you know, he kind of goes from kind of a bad character really to, you know, this sort of enlightened, like good guy. And that's sort of what allows him, like you were saying to begin with, that's kind of the thing that allows him to kind of, you know, get past
and
it.
because like he's living this day on repeat, it makes it hard to judge, right? Because like I think if I had to like you would try all kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I'd be like, well, today I'm gonna rob a bank and see what that's like. You know, like you would do. I mean, I wouldn't all of a sudden become like Spring Heel Jack. Well, I don't know. You know, I wouldn't attack women, but I would definitely try to like make some spring heels. Oh man,
I love when they park the car on the train tracks.
See, you know that sort of like
it's funny though the way
the middle 8 section of the movie.
Yeah, right.
Where it's just like all the different ways. It's just a little.
Yeah,
it's just a little intense sometimes.
Definitely not for kids.
One last thing that I want to say just about Bill Murray in general is like growing up, seeing him in movies like this, and heck, even Caddyshack, but Ghostbusters and Scrooged, and
every Wes Anderson
What About
movie.
Bob?
Oh,
well, that's what I was going to say. Like, I never would have imagined the incredible range that he would have as an actor, and like, his character in The Royal Tenenbaums, and then like his character in Life Aquatic. Dude, there's that moment when that Sigur Rós song is playing, and the shark that he's
every time.
I don't want to spoil it, folks, but this is like one of my favorite scenes in any movie ever.
Same.
He's spending his entire life trying to essentially kill this shark that is, it's a cryptid, frankly. That's eluded him this whole time, and finally he comes in contact.
It's like the leopard shark or something weird like that. Yeah.
He comes in contact with it again. It's like swimming towards his sub, and that song's playing, and then he has just like this moment of realization.
It is beautiful, Steve.
Yeah, it's pretty good, isn't it? I wonder if it remembers me.
Dude, it's amazing.
Yeah. Which I still haven't seen, speaking of Wes Anderson, I haven't seen The French Dispatch.
The French Dispatch. Yeah, me neither.
I usually watch those like as soon as they come out. But
I was just talking about this last night, I think, with Ann. Like, dude, you know what movie I really want to see again that I've only seen like maybe once is
Moonrise Kingdom.
No, I've seen that one multiple times. It's so good. No, the Budapest. I do love how Wes Anderson always, there's a lot of people, and I know that we're really getting off track here, but it'll make sense. But there's a lot of people that, criticize Wes Anderson, and in some ways, like a lot of his movies sort of, it almost becomes like predictable and everything. But I read this incredible quote, man, and I don't have it here in front of me, but I'm just gonna have to paraphrase. And to me, it was like, dude, that is the most amazing way to kind of, I don't know, to defend his art, So in the quote, he was basically saying, look, I know that at the end of the day, like one of my favorite things to do, and if you've ever seen a Wes Anderson movie, you'll know exactly what I mean whenever he says this, but he says one of my favorite things to do is essentially kind of like build the set and like the scene perfectly.
Yeah.
And I think that's, one of the things that sort of jumps out the first time you see, especially post Bottle Rocket, really, is like every single frame is like immaculately placed and everything. And he said that like over time, he's like, and I know some people don't like that or they think that I should do something different. And he's like, ultimately, I kind of think of it as like, it's like handwriting. And he said that like, I decided to write my stories from then on, because he was kind of like struggling with that, internally. And he said, from then on, I sort of decided I'm going to write all my stories using my handwriting. And I just thought, man, that's so cool. Freaking awesome, man.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. It's kind of similar to, like I can think
Michael Bay. I'm just kidding, dude.
Well, I mean, honestly, Michael Bay does have
too, but it's just like, dude.
No, I know.
With every explosion, it's like these crazy phosphorus fireworks, or
lens
that doesn't
flares.
happen when a car crashes into a pole.
Although I gotta defend him, like there definitely is. I mean, as it's like cheesy it is, and like, oh, here's another like weird like Bud Light placement. Like it's so like over the top, like sellout, but like you gotta give it to him, man. They are like,
oh, they're entertaining.
They're so entertaining.
Wait, did he do the first Transformers? Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, with Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was LaBeouf.
Yeah, it is, dude. Come on, that's from The Office.
Yeah, it's I mean, but like Armageddon and yeah, they all do kind of look the same. But no, what I was going to say is like it's very much like, I'm an artist, so I have this style where I have a million little tick marks and everything else I do with a brush and I dip it into ink. It's kind of the same sort of thing. It's like you can look at a piece of my work and say, "Oh, that belongs to Tyler Bentz." Wes Anderson, you can literally take a screenshot or a screen grab of like just any random shot in any of his movies, and you know that it's Wes Anderson. And as much like shit as he gets, you got to give it to him, because I don't know many other directors that you could ever do that with.
Right.
It's like there's just like a tone. I mean, even
I think the ones that like end up being legendary, you can't like. I mean, Tarantino has his style.
Oh yeah,
and it's very much like with Tarantino though. A lot of it's borrowed and sort of like not reused, but like there's a lot of like 70s movies that he borrows from with Wes Anderson.
Sort of
man, I just feel
derivative a
like,
little bit.
you know, there's just this incredible, style, man, that is just so cool. Immediately, you're just like, you want to notice every single detail.
Yeah.
You know, the dialogue is very like fast-paced and
God, it's so funny.
It's just so good, man.
I mean, a perfect example of like his whole career sort of synthesized into a little scene is like on Rushmore when it shows, and again, the attention to detail is insane. When it does like the little montage of like AV Club, French Club, Airplane Club, and in every one of these like little quick, super fast, like 1 second edits, the whole scene is made up, and like God knows how long it took just to create this little like 1 second long little flash. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So good, man.
So good.
We need to do an episode just on Wes Anderson.
Yeah, I think so, man. Because like, I want to know. Well, first, also his soundtracks are
that's
just amazing. Because there's always like,
the Kinks,
relatively the Kinks and like some well-known bands, but he goes into like the deep cuts a lot of the time too. Stuff that like isn't necessarily like the popular song or whatever, but him live is just so good.
Velvet Underground, Rolling Stones. Another thing too is which I did not really like. What is it called? The Isle of Dogs.
Yeah, I never saw it, man.
I did not get the same. It was just really slow, like in a way that just didn't do it for me. But every other movie pretty much.
Fantastic.
That's what I was going to bring up. The Fantastic Mr. Fox
unbelievable, dude.
Incredible because it takes all that attention to detail, and it really. I think it's an amazing example of like it shows like how his attention to detail is like just as solid whether it's in real life or stop motion animation. Yeah. It's amazing. Like
Bill Murray plays the badger.
Yeah, the badger. Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, that movie like. There's just so much about the Fantastic Mr. Fox that, like, I mean, truly the only reason I watched it, honestly, because it wasn't really like a story that I was super into when I was a kid or anything. The only reason I watched it was because it was Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
Because I knew that, like, and the cast was just ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
The voices, it was just so good, man. There's so many moments, dude, that, like, like the opossum, whenever he's just like, staring at him like blankly, and he's like, "You all right there, man?"
Oh yeah.
And then like, oh god, George Clooney being George Clooney, but as a fox. I mean, it's perfectly cast, dude. Everything is perfectly cast in that.
Still, the best scene in the entire movie is when Jason Schwartzman comes out, and he's like, "What are you wearing that for?" He's got like a cape on or something.
Yeah, he's got like a cape and
And he's a smart ass, and then he just like spits on the ground and walks off or something.
He's brushing his teeth. He like spits on the ground and walks away.
Yeah. Oh man, I gotta watch that movie.
And then like his cousin like comes to stay with him because I think like his parent like somebody died or something, and like his cousin comes and he's just like naturally athletic. He's more like
how George Clooney,
that George Clooney's character, like the Fantastic Mr. Fox, wanted as a son,
right?
And Jason Schwartzman is more of like a quirky sort of like.
Like your son Woodrow.
Yeah, like kind of just like into different things other than sports and stuff. And the very first night, he's just like, he says something, man, where like, where should I sleep? He's like, I don't know, anywhere. I don't know. It's just funny.
Yeah, they're like on the little like bunk beds or whatever. Yeah. That's such a good movie. I also love that this whole episode is us just saying, oh yeah, and then Bill Murray does this. Well, before we get out of here, what are you into? Because we haven't really gotten to
I'm
talk
glad you
a
asked
lot.
that, man. I think I kind of mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but I got to say, like, I've kind of changed my tune a little bit on Book of Boba Fett, the show.
I started it yesterday.
But I don't want to say why, because I know you're not there yet. But, dude, you got to stay off the internet. Otherwise, you're going to see crazy spoilers, man.
Yeah.
I mean, insane stuff happens.
I will say, like, and I'm only on the first episode, but, like, there is something about showing, like...
The face, man.
The origin story that's just, like, I just don't like it. It's like...
Yeah. I mean...
it's like what they did with Wolverine with, like, fallen sun or whatever it's called. I don't think that's not right, but it's like when they explain that, like, oh, he's Sabretooth's brother or whatever, and originally he has these like bone claws, and like, it's like, don't tell me any of that stuff. Just keep complete mystery. And
I mean, that's part of the appeal of Boba Fett, man, is that like nobody knows much about him. He's just like the ultimate bad A. And you know,
maybe it gets better.
But like it does get better. But I can't wait for you to watch it because it'll make sense.
Episode 5.
You know, we've been watching Ozark.
I haven't watched it yet. Oof. God, speaking of Jason Bateman, I just watched Bad Words the other day. Again.
You know, I don't know. I don't even know if. I think I've seen it. I don't know.
Dude, you and Ann have to watch it. This is like as Jason Bateman.
Dude, that's the best part. Every movie is Bateman. I just want Bateman on repeat, dude.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, what's funny is like before that, it just popped up, and I was like, man, I haven't seen Horrible Bosses in a long time.
Oh my gosh,
such a funny movie.
But dude, same with Horrible Bosses too. You know there's that scene, and man, we're really getting in the weeds here. But there's that scene whenever they're like, "What should we do?"
Okay. Hey, you know what? This is just a problem. That means all we got to do is come up with a solution, right?
You know what we do? We put some ideas up on the board, right?
That's what I'm
Okay,
saying.
here we go, boys.
No idea's a bad idea. Let's go.
No idea's a bad idea.
Who's gonna start us off? I got it. Kurt, let's kill these No.
Murder! Yes!
That's the Chicago way.
Chicago way!
I want his family dead.
I want
his house
husband.
burned down and baseball bat. Come on, man.
Jason Sudeikis and Charlie Day like write their ideas on the board, and he's just like, freak, and he's like, boom. Jason Sudeikis is super proud of this idea, and he's like,
And a bunch of hot air. Come on. Deal.
Boom. Marker drop.
Kidnapping.
That's kidnapping.
With one more P it is. That's kidnapping.
he's like, no, this is kidnapping. He's like, with an extra P it would. That says kidnapping.
Yeah.
And then he goes to erase it, and it's just the most Bateman scene ever, dude. He's like, he just like so quietly, he tries to erase it, and he's like, boy, look what we have here. And he just slams the eraser on the thing, and he's like, was this a permanent marker? And he always does that thing where he like kind of like winks, nods, and is talking at the same time.
Oh, it's incredible.
He's the best, dude. He's so freaking hilarious, man.
Yeah, he's so funny.
Dude, we've been talking about way too much random stuff here, man.
We sure have. Real quick before we go, I have wanted to order from this company forever, and boy, I would love it if they would sponsor the show, but so far they're not. But I've heard about it forever. It's called InStockTrades.com, and I've always heard like, oh, they have the best prices on like trade paperbacks and like graphic novels, and you know, we're talking comic stuff. And I had a little Christmas money, and I went in, and I gotta say, man, they really are cheaper than anything used on Amazon, any super crazy low price you could find on eBay. Because for trades, I don't really care. I don't care the condition they're in, because you know, I'm gonna throw it in a bag and take it wherever, you know. So, but I got like this massive, you know, order for like, I don't know, I think it was $80, but I got the Ultra Mega Trade by James Herron, Image Comics. It looks amazing. Haven't read it yet. The Batman Universe, which is the hardback, which is that badass Brian Michael Bendis and Nick Darrington.
Dude, Nick Darrington.
Dude, this book is incredible. It's the issues that you had to find at Walmart, which was a nightmare to find. But they all have it in one collected edition, and it's just Darrington is just like, God, he's good. He's kind of like a modern Alex Toth, but he's incredible. I also got this book called Alack Sinner, Age of Disenchantment, which I think this guy's from Argentina or maybe Cuba. It's Jose Munoz and Carlos Sampaio. I'm not racist, but it's amazing. And the second you see it, you're going to be like, oh, that's literally Frank Miller ripped this dude off for all of Sin City. But I think there's some debate out there, but I don't know. It's a little close. I found this Will Eisner book, off topic of in-stock trades, at an Ollie's. If you have an Ollie's in your town, I mean, it's incredible.
You can always find some real random stuff in there.
So random and so like hit or miss, but like, dude, I found this book called Will Eisner, Champion of the Graphic Novel. It's hardback. It's like this crazy, amazing binding. $6 for like 200 pages.
Jeez.
Anyway, back to In-Stock Trades. This book by Jeff Lemire and Tonchi Zonjic, which is an incredible artist. Again, he's kind of that Alex Toth, Chris Samney. But the book is called, it's part of the Black Hammer universe. It's called Skull Digger and Skeleton Boy. And last but not least, some of my favorite books of all time is when DC does the Batman Black and White stuff, because it's sort of that anthology format. It's like, super random artist. Some of my favorites are, Paul Pope with Teenage Sidekick, this story called Broken Nose. Raphael Grandpa did one. All these amazing artists, and a lot of them are like your non-house style, like really sort of left of center artists, kind of like myself, really. But they redid that, and I think they have 6 issues of it. But I just bought the hardback omnibus, and all those books for like $80. From In-Stock Trades. I'm also reading, lastly, this book that I got for $1 at a thrift store called Fairy Tale, F-A-E-R-I-E Tale, by Raymond E. Feist. And man, it's awesome. It's the one that I see the photo of.
Yeah.
Really good. Really, really good. But yeah, that's
awesome, man.
That's what I've been doing.
Yeah, well, I'm on book. I've just been reading these dang Star Wars Bounty Hunters books, man.
Oh, right.
And they're just.
What were you looking for, by the way? Weren't you looking for?
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't even want to say it on right now, just in case someone else finds it. I got to find it. It's hard to find, and whenever I'm not until I have them in my hands. They're expensive as crap, dude. They're not on that In-Stock Trades, by the way.
Also, speaking of hard to find, what was the book that you could not find anywhere? Oh, Manifest Destiny volume 6.
Is it 6 or 7, man?
I think it's 6. Basically, it's from Image Comics, and it's this book called Manifest Destiny, and it's sort of, by the way, if you're not into comics, you probably should have tuned out a while back. But it's like Lewis and Clark and their sort of expedition, the Manifest Destiny, discovering and sort of profiling America.
No, dude, it is volume 6. You're right.
Yeah. And basically the whole sort of premise is like they're discovering like monsters and stuff. And
it's a really cool premise.
Really,
I mean,
really
like I think you accidentally got me into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I just
Did I give you the first trade or something?
I think you let me borrow it.
Probably
and then I like just went nuts and just bought as many as I could get my hands on. But like you said, man, and I think I found like a couple at Wizards. And at some point, again, folks, and you'll hear me say this every time, Wizards is our local shop that has used trades, old back issue comics, and I mean, dude,
if you're anywhere near Gainesville,
toys,
Georgia,
whatever you want back in the day, you can find it there. Old gaming systems, all that stuff. That's where we check for anything that we're looking for first. And then if we can't find it there, boom, then we go to like In-Stock Trades, that kind of thing. But anyway.
or Galactic Quest, which is a comic shop in our area. Anyway, volume 6 of Manifest Destiny apparently is impossible to find.
And I can't figure out why, man, because it was released like in 2018, and all the other, like volume 7, volume 8, easy to find, easy to get. You look up Manifest Destiny volume 6, and it's like, yeah, you can buy it from Amazon for $90.
Yeah, I looked it up too, and I can't find anybody even saying anything about it.
No, I can't determine why it's so expensive. Was it like a limited run was there some sort of printing issue? Initially at first I thought, okay, maybe
like COVID
they printed
stuff.
the collection, during COVID, and then they just moved on in like volume 7. I don't know, man. It's so weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
So anyway, if anybody has a copy of it and you don't want to sell it for $90, I'd be happy to talk. Really, I just want to read what happens, man. It's so intriguing.
Yeah, it's really good.
Anyway, man.
Anywho, we've been rambling a long time today.
Well, we just, we missed being on here. And so I think everybody's homework is, number 1, go watch Groundhog.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number 2, if you want to support our show, there's a couple different ways you can do it. The first way is you can get our merch, which we have a link in our link tree that you can find on our Instagram profile at That Would Be Rad. So you can buy our merch. You can, support us by wearing that shirt around town or sticker on your car, whatever
buy
it is.
Us a coffee on the link tree.
You can buy us a coffee and make a one-time donation. Or something that everybody can do that doesn't cost any money is you can rate us on both iTunes and now Spotify.
Yeah, that's right.
And tell a friend, family member, a coworker about our show and to check us out.
That would make a world of difference, and it would be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely.
Like what he said, feel free to shoot us or jump on in over at Instagram. There's always a good conversation going. And, if you have anything that you want to add, pertaining to like the previous episode or like, oh, hey, I heard a story about this and you guys didn't talk about it. Hey, man, the more the merrier. Just bring it on. Feel free to shoot us DMs if you want to tell us a story or anything like that. If you want to tell us a more long-form story, record a voice memo, write an essay, whatever. Send it over to thatwouldberaddpod@gmail.com. And we'd love to hear from you. You got anything else, Woody?
I think that's it, man.
All right. Well, as we always say, we love you, we appreciate you. And as always,
be rad.
That's the way it goes.
Time where I just needed some sunshine. You were already dead, for you became a ghost. You always